Hello and welcome to the Help Us Here podcast, brought to you by the Compulsion Academy. Today I'm joined by Gavin. Welcome on the show, Gavin. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, cheers for joining us. So Gavin is a client from the Compulsion Academy, and today we're going to be talking about Gavin's experience trying to overcome porn and then how he has actually successfully rewired his brain correctly now and has gone beyond compulsion. So Gavin, do you want to start off by just sharing a bit about your story, your journey of sort of trying to stop this behaviour and what happened and discovering NoFap and all of that?
Yeah, so I'd say, although I was exposed to this thing very young, very early on, it only kind of became like a big problem in my life about 5 years ago when I actually discovered NoFap, and I realised that that was something that could, well, when I found NoFap, it made me realise that this thing, porn, was causing me so much problems, so much pain and just anxiety, and these were all things that I had no explanation for. Even things like lack of self-belief, lack of ambition, lack of energy. I used to always think, like, why is this a problem for me? And didn't really have any reason to believe it was like porn or anything, because no one was really talking about it. Everyone kind of just laugh and joke about it as if it was like no big deal. So yeah, fast forward to about 2020, that was when I found the NoFap community, and I thought, well, I might as well give it a try because it was so glamorized online, like everyone was talking about all these benefits, and I thought, oh, this is amazing. So I gave it a try, and then I actually managed to go 30 days for the first time, and I don't even know how, but basically that made me realize, like, this is the answer to all my problems. I thought I'd like figured it all out. But then when I did eventually relapse, I got nowhere near those 30 days like after that for like a good year. And so it was kind of a blessing and a curse, because the NoFap, in a good way, it helped me realize like it's the porn that's the problem. But then I just became obsessed with like, I need to get back to 30 days or else my life is just like pointless. But I didn't really know how to do it. I only got to 30 days through sheer luck. And then after it, I was just constantly trying to get back there. And I just became more and more obsessed with the whole topic. And then instead of just it being like a thing that I would do and not really care about, I became so fixated on it and so obsessed with it. And then it just took over my life. And I think it just made it even worse. So I kind of battled through that without really any real knowledge or tools to help me until I found you eventually. And then it all changed.
Yeah, awesome. So in that time when you were like trying to do NoFap, you didn't really have any tools, no knowledge on how to actually deal with the real problem directly. What were you like trying to do back then to try and overcome the problem?
Everything that I'm sure other people have seen online. So the usual cold showers, meditation. If you get an urge, just like do exercise, go out for a walk. Basically everything you can possibly do to either avoid the problem, pretend it doesn't exist, or substitute it with something else, which kind of goes against everything that we learn on the Compulsion Academy, which is we need to just tackle it head on. We need to address the problem and deal with it in the moment. So that whole time I thought I was making progress, but I was actually just running away from the problem, and it was just staying there. I might have just been pushing it to the back of my mind, but it was just lingering. It was only waiting to like just reappear and resurface again later on.
Yeah. And how did you feel when you were relapsing after trying to sort of avoid and manage and control the addiction?
Yeah, it was terrible. So like the worst thing about NoFap is you just live a life that is just constant up and downs. Your life is only good when you're on a streak. And it got to a point where my entire self-worth was just like dictated by how long a streak I was on.
Yeah.
And I would think like I wouldn't want to go out and socialize because I'd feel like I wasn't the type of person that I could be when I wasn't watching porn. And so it's just this constant like conflict of not being the person I want to be, and then getting to a stage where I'm happy with myself, but then always knowing that eventually this is going to come to an end and I'm going to have to go back and do it all again. And each time I would fail, I'd feel worse and worse about myself. And I just couldn't seem to figure it out. And I would also read all these stories on Reddit and things like that of these people that are going like a year, and I'd compare myself to these people and think like, oh, I just don't have like the discipline, like these guys are just better. So I started to just feel like inferior, and obviously that would affect your confidence and your self-esteem, and it was just a kind of downward spiral for quite a long time.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like it was a really, really difficult time. And
Yeah.
I know we've had like quite a lot of coaching calls together and stuff. And you've said before that, you know, everything in your life, like all the self-improvement was actually so much harder when you were in the addiction as well.
Yeah, like that's probably been the most valuable like insight that I've gained since breaking free from this, because I would always look at other people and just be like, how did they make it look so easy? So it could be anything from just like socializing with people. I would always kind of envy people that were like charismatic, and just like people were just drawn to them because they were so like warm and inviting and confident. Or even people who would study for hours and hours at a time without even checking their phone, or like they just made it look so easy. Or people who would diet and get in really good shape. But for me, it was like the hardest thing in the world just to go like 2 weeks without eating a cheat meal or anything like that. And I used to think like, you just don't have the discipline. You're just not cut out for this, or you're just not that type of person. You're just introverted. And I used to always say things like, I can't do small talk. I hate small talk. Like, just don't talk to me if it's like surface level kind of stuff. But really, that wasn't me at all, because now I'm the one going up to people that I don't even know, and I'm probably annoying them just like talking like all this like small talk and things. But yeah, it makes you realize that the addiction, if you've been stuck in an addiction for like the last 15, 20 years, you don't even really know who you actually are deep down, like that real authentic you, because it's not even been that long, and already I'm like, I actually like being me again. Like I feel like I've got like a second chance at life, and I'm just like, wow, I didn't realize I was actually this type of person, because I was just numbing myself with all this like bullshit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, everything is so much easier now. All these sort of like self-improvement habits, which I would force myself to do, are just so natural now.
Do you think that's partly because you've understood the constant conflict, you know, this battle that goes on when you're in the addiction, where you want to do it and you also simultaneously want to stop doing it, and because you're aware of that and you're making your choices, it's like you have that clarity, that peace of mind. So it's not this constant sort of friction, this back and forth, this battle going on in the mind all the time, which is just so distracting and leads to people being completely like agitated and irritated just all the time, really.
Yeah, definitely. So I would become so obsessed with doing everything except from like addressing the real problem. So I'd get obsessed with self-improvement. So every day I'd wake up and I would have this a huge like list the length of my arm of all of these things that I needed to do. So I'd have to tick them off throughout the day, and if I didn't do them all, it was like I failed. And like all these things I thought were helping me be like the person that I want to be. So I would do like the meditation, I would do the gym, the journaling, the cold showers, the like you name it.
Yeah.
And if I skipped one of them, it would be like that's why I'm like not confident. It's because I've not done this. And that's why self-improvement is so like alluring to the porn addict, because it creates this illusion that you are making progress, but really you're not.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe you might become like more present with the meditation. You might kind of free up some space in your mind, get things off your chest with journaling, and you might become a bit more organized, but you're still just as unhappy.
Yeah.
You're still like, you lack fulfillment and confidence, and there was always just this gap. I'm like, what is it? Like, what am I like? I couldn't figure it out for so long. And then, yeah, until I met you, it was just like, thank God, because I have no idea where I'd be if I didn't find you, because to this day, I still haven't found anyone who really shares actual, honest, constructive advice that you can apply to your life that will actually change. Because all these things are like, yeah, they're good, but if you're stuck in a porn addiction, they're not going to have any real like effect on that.
Yeah. Do you want to explain a bit about why none of those things actually do change the brain? Like, why none of those things are actually relevant to overcoming porn addiction? Because as we've spoke about, you know, the the misconception is that self-improvement or removing your triggers or blockers, all these random things that like the masses are actually, talking about, videos with millions of views on YouTube, they're talking about these things. But why do none of those things actually work for porn addiction recovery?
I think because they're just avoiding the problem. So until you actually deal with it in the moment, which takes a lot of courage. So a lot of the reason why we choose to like relapse and engage is because it's uncomfortable and it's not easy. And so if we do all these things like go for runs, and like get sunlight and read 2 chapters a day and journal our thoughts, it makes us feel like we are making progress. But like I said before, the issue is still left untouched. And the only way that you can actually address that is by waiting for the critical moment where you are in that position where you want to relapse. And you think, right, well, now is my chance to actually make a difference. Here, I'm confronted with the problem, which is like the urge to engage. Now, I can go to the gym if I want, but I'm not dealing with it. So, for me anyway, and basically this is what the course kind of, like, this is like a small part of the course, but it is still crucial, is that you need to address the core issue and you need to sit with it and think it through and make the right choice. And if you do that enough times, your addictive neural pathways are going to change, because every single time, repeatedly, you've thought about it and then you've chosen a different path to what you usually do. And obviously with enough repetition, that's going to become more automatic.
Yeah.
And then those addictive neural pathways will begin to weaken over time.
And the other thing about it is it's so much more empowering because you're actually facing the real problem head on and making a choice and feeling like, I do have control over myself. Whereas, again, with like the gym or any sort of avoidance, distraction, substitution, it's almost like you're conditioning yourself on some level to believe that you don't actually have control over yourself or you don't have a choice, and you're disempowered, and that in the face of urges, you're this like helpless person, which just isn't true. And, there's so much language in the kind of nofap communities around slipping up and, I just was on autopilot or it was automatic, and all this helpless language just like really, really works against people. Can you share any sort of examples? Have you had any thoughts like that in the past, maybe before we worked together?
Well, yeah, there's definitely plenty helpless language. So, well, I remember a good example is when I reached out to you the second time. I think I said, like, is there any help for me? Is there any hope for me? Am I just helpless? Am I just too addicted? Do I just lack the discipline? Maybe I'm just wired this way. All these kind of junky thoughts, all these kind of like lack of self-belief, and just it's the addictive part of the mind talking, trying to convince you that you are helpless and there's no way out for you. Which is what you feel, especially when you do relapse. And so, it's like the kind of helpless / self-deprecating language that we all use. So some of the approaches that I might have used in the past was like, well, if you just call yourself a loser enough times, then that'll give you the motivation to not be a loser. But really, it just makes you feel even worse. Your self-esteem goes down the drain. And then you want something to pick you up. So you go back to that thing that makes you feel good. And then you feel bad, and it just repeats the cycle over and over again. But just to go back to the whole self-improvement thing, was I could have gone a day of doing every single thing on that list perfectly and then relapsed and I'd feel terrible. But if I had missed half of those things, but I actually dealt with the problem in the moment, I'd feel great afterwards because I felt like I'd really overcame something, like the real problem. And even just each time that you have the urge that comes up, and it is hard at times, like sometimes you really are just like fighting, like, oh my God, like this is so uncomfortable. But when that discomfort inevitably passes, you feel so much better. And each time you grow in confidence. And as you kind of progress through your journey, you feel like they've got less and less of like a grip on you.
Yeah.
And so things like junky thoughts now, before in the past I would have to think about them and really analyze them and then be like, no, this is a junky thought. Now when one pops in my brain, I'm just like, oh, junky thought.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
straight away I'm just like, I know it's a junky thought and it has no power over me.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Can you give like a few examples of common junky thoughts that maybe you've had in the past?
a big one is, you're not in a relationship right now, so what are you supposed to do?
What would be like your correction to that? Because obviously this is like a big part of the program, is helping people identify junky thoughts and then correct them themselves. Then they don't need to like actually be worried about them.
To be honest, Mary explained it really well on one of the podcasts, where she said like, you're not just like entitled to sex.
Yeah.
Like, it's a privilege, and so don't feel like you, just because you're not in a relationship, like you just need to have this like porn. It's like, no, especially if it's destroying your life. Don't feel like, well, I have to watch it. No, you don't.
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, I'd say that was kind of a big like game changer for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like understanding that actually it's your choice and you don't need to release or anything like that. Like I used to have this misconception, this junky thought that if I like go a certain amount of days without watching porn, without masturbating, without sex, anything like that, like there's going to be this like build up. Like I'm going to have more and more urges, and then it's going to get to a point where I can't handle it anymore, and I have to give in. I have to masturbate, otherwise like everything's just gonna, I don't even know. Like it's just the addictive part of the mind. Like it's just trying to trick me into believing it was just gonna last forever. So can you share like how the truth is that these urges, they don't last forever? Like if you actually deal with them directly, they do go away, and you actually rewire the brain.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely do go away. And to be honest, they don't really last as long as you might think they do. In the moment, it feels like forever.
Yeah.
But it's not really. And so I would always like, a key part of the script is like knowing that it doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
And that it is temporary. And also that you can engage if you want. Not like, you don't have to do this, but you're choosing to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you've decided that this is something you want to do, and you have to go through it if you want to get to the other side. And like I said before, you will gain in confidence. Your self-belief in like tackling these urges will grow each time you do it. So in the beginning, it is the hardest.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, how am I going to handle this? But then when you've done it a few times, you think like, I've got this.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah, yeah. And how would you say that level of self-trust and self-confidence has impacted other areas of your life?
Yeah, like massively. I wouldn't be doing this for a start.
Yeah.
I have just started a YouTube channel, which I uploaded my first video yesterday, which is another thing that if you had even asked me like at the start of the year, open up to the whole world about your struggles with porn addiction and other things, I would have just been like, no, piss off. Like, there's no way I'm doing that. Are you joking? But now I'm just like, I just have a completely different perspective on things. I don't care what other people think of me now, which was something that I always kind of wasted so much time and energy on. Like, I would be worried about the opinions of like people like from school who I don't even like, who I probably will never see ever again in my entire life. Like, why would I care about what they think?
Yeah.
And they obviously don't even care either. Like, they're not thinking about me. They're probably thinking about their own problems.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's just so freeing to, like, just not care what anyone thinks. I feel like I can just be my authentic self, and, like, that's so enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah, like, confidence in everything. Confidence in myself, my own like abilities and things. Instead of being scared of if things will go wrong, I'm just like, I know I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, if I put like, I almost have this sort of like delusional self-belief. It's like, if I have enough time and I put the effort in, I can do anything I want.
Mm, mm. Well, I don't even think it's like this
Yeah, I know.
delusional
It's not
because
even.
yeah, like as you'll know, like one of the hardest things you'll probably ever go through in life is actually dealing with addicting neural pathways. Like it's not impossible. Like you can do it, and you know you're a great example of that. But it is challenging, as you say. You know, when you have that compulsive desire and you've got all these thoughts going, and it's like, you know, just give in once, just have one look, it's gonna be fine. Blah blah blah. You've got all these chunky thoughts, and you're all that discomfort. When you actually know how to deal with that correctly, and you do that repeatedly, then it does give you that extra bit of confidence because you're like, well, if I can like actually master myself, then maybe I can actually master like the external world as well.
Yeah, definitely, because this was something that I truly believed I would never overcome. So I thought I would just have to kind of manage it as best I could, and I just thought, like, I remember saying to you at one point, like, if I can just do like 90 days and then relapse and then do another 90 days, like, I've made it at that point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
remember that conversation well.
yeah,
I remember like on the coaching call, I was like, oh, like I've done 90 days of NoFap before, like years ago. It doesn't mean anything. It's rubbish, blah blah blah, because my brain hadn't changed. And then you were like, oh well, to be honest, mate, like if I could do 90 days right now, I'd be buzzing. Like that'd be great. But has your perspective on that changed now?
yeah. And even if I did go 90 days, it would be like followed by 6 months of addiction. It wouldn't just be like relapse back on another 90 days. Like it doesn't work like that. And so now that I have overcome it, because that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
It's definitely been the biggest obstacle I've overcome. That's why I feel like I can do anything now, because if I can do that, I'm like, nothing is going to be as hard as that was.
Yeah.
And it's not even that it is that hard. It's not. It's just I believed it was.
Yeah.
I believed it was like this was going to be impossible.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the fact that I overcame something that I believed was impossible, now I believe that like anything is possible.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. That's such a good way of looking at it. It's like it's shifted that underlying belief that like something is impossible, so therefore I can't do it. But then actually if you overcome something that you once thought was impossible, it's like, well, actually that means that other things that I may once have thought were impossible are actually possible as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love that so much. Do you want to explain a bit about why relapse is not part of recovery? I know this is a bit controversial. People don't like to hear this, but it's been the truth for me. It's been the truth for you. It's been the truth for every single guy we've ever worked with.
Yeah. I think if you tell someone that relapse is part of recovery, it almost gives them a kind of excuse to kind of an excuse to relapse. It's like, well, they might think in the moment, well, if I relapse, like, this is just part of the journey. And it's not. And it wasn't until I fully understood that it all changed. Yeah. Because that's when you really realise, like, well, I can relapse, but I'm just going all the way back to the start. So, yeah, like, you need to completely understand that fully, because you're just going to stay stuck. You're always going to have an excuse like, well, I'm making progress. Like, I went 20 days this time, and last time I went 14, so that's progress. It's like, not really. You were making progress, but you ruined it. Yeah, yeah. So.
Yeah, and it sounds like quite harsh, but can you explain a bit about what actually did happen when you did choose to engage? Because, you know, I'm more than happy to kind of share this on the podcast and stuff, but the first time you did the program, you came in, everything was going well. I think you left the program, you did really well. You did about 2 months or so, but then you did choose to engage that one time, I think because you stopped using the script, right? And then after that point, it was like really, really hard to get back on track again. It took months, and then, you know, you reached out to me and we did things again, and that's how we ended up here. But, you know, choosing to engage that one time, how it does just put you back in that addiction for like a prolonged period of time. It's not like you can just kind of manage and control it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think each time I would relapse, it would get progressively worse. And also, I also felt that the longer I would go without it, like, I would just be so much worse after. Like, it wouldn't even be like you would drop back down to baseline. You would go like way below baseline.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you went like, say you'd relapsed after like a week, it would be pretty bad. But if you relapsed after like 90 days, it was awful. You felt like your whole world was just like crashing down on you, and you didn't want, like, I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to speak to anyone, and I would like kind of be treating the people close to me that I care about the most like shit. And obviously I was just living life as this person that I absolutely hated and didn't want to be. And so yeah, it was just kind of going back to that, like, my whole life is just a constant up and down of, I'm either loving life because I'm on a streak and I think I'm finally getting like rid of this problem, and then it would just all come crashing back down, and I'd be straight back to square one, feeling more and more despondent, more and more hopeless, just like, what do I need to do? Just trying to figure it out and like searching for answers, and nothing was making sense. I just couldn't piece anything together.
Yeah. And would you say like some of the nofap and misinformation on porn addiction recovery was actually making things worse for quite a while?
Yeah, definitely. So like I said to you earlier on, it was like, on paper, nofap looks like a great idea because it's just a bunch of men or women who want to abstain from this thing that's ruining their life. But that just becomes a whole new obsession. And like with me particularly, it just made me so much more obsessed with porn. So I went from like just kind of doing it maybe like once or twice a day to and then forgetting about it, to just like waking up and being like, I need to get through this day without relapse, and it was just always on my mind. So it just makes you even more addicted. And I think a lot of guys don't realize that it's not the answer to all your questions.
Yeah. And it's a bit like, there's a quote by a guy called Carl Jung, which is what you resist persist, and it's like nofap is, well, generally, you know, this sort of nofap sort of methods and advice that you hear online, on some level, often anyway, it is about sort of resisting the urge and trying to, you know, put it away, you know, avoid, distract, substitute, as we spoke about, and then it's like always on the mind. And so, do you want to just share how different it feels to actually deal with the desires directly, and how that actually just leads to so much more space in your mind, but how that has to be done in a very specific way? It's not just like some quick tip or quick hack where you learn it online and then you're good to go.
Yeah, no, once you've got like a solid method and you have tools like the script and the remember letter, you can just forget about you don't have to worry about relapsing or porn, because you know that in the moment, when it does arise, you can deal with it correctly in the moment. So the rest of the time, you're free to just live your life. And that's how I felt kind of the weeks and months that I was actually making progress. I just felt like I had so much more energy and time because I wasn't constantly thinking about this. I just thought, you know what, I don't need to think about this. I've got everything I need.
Yeah.
I've done the course. I know everything I need to know. So what else can I do? All I need to do is just wait for the moment, the critical moment, when that urge arises, and then deal with it properly.
Yeah.
Don't worry about any of these self-improvement habits or all these distractions and avoidance. Don't worry about that. Just focus on the problem at hand. And that's what I did. And like, I just happened to do all the self-improvement things anyway because I wanted to. It just happened naturally.
Yeah. I think another thing to talk about with regards to like self-improvement and addiction is the detour to disaster, right? So this is like a big part of the program. You know, we talk about what we actually focus on. I know people think it is just going to be about porn, but really it's about compulsivity as a whole, and that can include things like social media, it can include video games, it could include eating, and that's something which, you know, you experienced in the past as part of compulsion. There's this misconception that porn addiction is about sexual desire and porn, but I think you now know that it's really about compulsivity, because you also experienced the compulsion with regards to food in the past and also overcame that, and you know, you've lost quite a lot of like weight and are in really good shape at the moment as well, since applying the same method across all the areas of your life. So do you want to share a bit about that as well?
Yeah, so the porn was like the main issue, but it was also the cause of other problems in my life, which I had no idea as well. So like I've always been really kind of consistent in the gym. It's been like my thing for quite a while. So I was always very consistent with training, but the diet part was just inconsistent, and my weight would often like fluctuate up and down. So it was like in the summer I would always like diet down and I'd get in really good shape every year, but it would last for like a month, and I would just be doing everything to like hold on to this like level of like physique, and then I would gain like 25, 30 pounds in a month.
Wow.
Because I dieted so hard and I just deprived myself of all this food, or I felt like I was depriving myself of all this food. Like, you can't eat this and you can't eat that, and you've got to drink all this water, like 4 litres of water a day, and you've got to count your macros and you've got to weigh your food. And it was just so like hyper fixation on all these like variables. And so yeah, my weight would always kind of fluctuate up and down, which would like just destroy my like confidence as well. And again, I would see other people in the gym and be like, how do you just maintain this like physique year round? Whereas I'm like either happy to like go in the sauna after workouts because I look good, or I'm going to the gym in hoodies and covering up because I'm insecure and I feel fat and stuff like that. And again, all these things like the binge eating, which only really became a problem like towards the end when I actually just gave up even trying to quit porn, because I thought like there was no hope for me. I tried and failed so many times where I thought like, you just are too addicted. I would see other people overcome it and be like, they're just not as addicted as I am. Which is just nonsense. And so when I finally broke free, that was like such an eye-opener. I was like, wow, this is so easy. Like, I've not thought about junk food in months. Not had any real like bad food in so long, but not because I'm trying to, just because I actually don't want to. And if like a birthday or some kind of occasion comes up, then I'll happily go out and eat food, anything. Like, it's just, I'm not forcing myself to do something because I feel like I need to do it. It's just like, everything is just so much more balanced and consistent.
Like, there's groundedness and consistency now. And stability. Do you feel like in the past, the binge eating, was that similar for you as maybe like watching porn?
The binge eating wasn't like every day. It was maybe like once or twice a week. But it would be bad. Like, I would spend 40, 50 pounds like in a day.
Wow.
I would go to like McDonald's, and then I would like on the way home stop off at Subway. And then I would like buy ice cream and like all these sweets. And in my head, I'm like, when I'm driving, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, don't do it. But it was like someone else was in the driver's seat and I was like a passenger just like watching me do it. And then after, it was like, you knew not to do it, but it was like I just didn't have any control. And like, there was times when I actually had like a coach, like a fitness coach, and he would be like, he just couldn't work out like how are you cheating on your diet? Or like, it's not this hard. And I didn't know. I was like, what is wrong with me? Why did I find it so hard to like stick to this meal plan? And now I know why, because the addiction is more than just like watching porn. It's ruining, well, for me anyway, it ruined like almost every part of my life. Whether it was relationships, mental health, productivity, just like overall success. And I think one of the things that I said to you a week ago was, you said like, oh, how is like life treating you now and stuff? And I said, yeah, it's like amazing, but I just keep thinking like, where would I be now if I didn't ever have to deal with that? But again, it's just an unanswerable question, which there's no point wasting your time. Like, you figured it out now, so but I do feel like in a way I've just been given like a second chance at life. Like, honestly, it's unbelievable how different. I didn't actually think it would be like this.
But anyone like inside of the program, because I'd probably say something like maybe 20 or 30% of the listeners are like guys inside the program. So for those guys, what would you advise them to do? Maybe, they're new to the program, they've been in a week or two. From your experience of being inside the Beyond Compulsion Academy, what would you advise other people to do to like make the most of the resources and go in to get to where you're at now?
I would just say try and absorb as much as the content as possible. Read your script and till you're just sick of reading it. Like, I got to that point where I'd read my remember letter so many times that even reading it was making me feel depressed. I was like, I just don't even want to look at it anymore because, and I think that's what I needed to do. Like, some people have probably done the course in the past and maybe not had to really like hammer the remember letter as much and been successful. But if you're struggling and you find it really difficult, my best advice is like, you can't learn enough. And even if you've, like, I will rewatch some of the videos and there's still some things that like I forget because like just like over time you can't remember the whole course off by heart. So just going back, and even if it's like the very first video, like phase 1, it's still important. Like you still need to know like you're not deprived and it is always a choice. And just reiterating all these facts, that was the biggest thing for me, because obviously I did the course last year as well, and it wasn't the same. Like I read the script maybe like 3 times a day, or I would only read the script if the urge came up, and half the time when the urge comes up you don't want to read the script. So you need to be as proactive as possible. So even when you aren't really thinking about it, I would always just try and, like, if I had like a spare moment, say I was on the train, or if I was like, I don't know, like waiting for a bus or in a queue, I would have my script on my phone and I would just read through it. Instead of going on social media, I would just read my script and things like that, and just constantly, like, I just changed my attitude and I was like, you know what, I'm doing this. I am doing this once and for all. I'm not going through this again.
I feel like that mental positioning is so important when it comes to addiction recovery, because it's so common for people to sort of take a back seat and feel like the addicted part of the mind's in control, and there's this fear around potentially relapsing in the future. There's these thoughts about, oh, well, I've relapsed hundreds of times in the past, so inevitably I'm going to one day relapse, so I need to, remove the triggers, have the blockers, do all this sort of stuff. But what we teach is about actually being like on the attack, like be proactive, like deal with the addicted part of the mind, because you can when you have the right education, and it does require training for sure, and it's quite thorough. But once you understand the addicted part of the mind's tactics and strategies, as you say, it loses its power, and it's like that desire lessens over time through the repetition, because you start to realize that actually you don't have to be helpless, you don't have to submit and consent to choosing to engage in your compulsive behaviour. You actually do have a choice. You are empowered to take control and be in the moment, making choices you're proud of 24/7. Like, that is fully possible for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, if you're not proactive, and let's say you're just like, oh, well, I'll just read my script when the urge comes up, like, you're basically just in nofap. Like, what's the difference between you just like putting the script to one side in your bedroom and kind of forgetting about it and then just living your life? It's not like, there's no difference between nofap and that. Like, the whole point of the course is taking the proactive approach and just like completely changing like your attitude towards it, instead of being like worrying about how this is going to impact me. It's just like, no, I'm attacking this thing. Like Mike said, like, his analogy was like the diver in the sea, basically like staring the shark in the face. And he was like, he's like, that's what you need to do. Like, you need to like face as if like the addiction is like a shark. Like, you need to just like head on, no cage, just get in and like completely like face the problem. Because it's not as scary as you think it is when you do actually face it.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that point of like facing it directly, there's a lot of talk nowadays about the root cause of addiction and trauma, and there's a lot of therapy trying to help people look at the past to try deal with the addiction, and a lot of that work can be really, really beneficial to people's life as a whole. But do you want to explain from your experience why that side of things doesn't actually deal with the actual like looking in the shark in the moment in the face,
Yeah, so for a long time I would always wonder, like, why am I like this? How did it even happen? Is it because of some childhood trauma that I've not really resolved? Or is it because I'm single? Is it because it's normalised in society? All of these things that I would try and find an answer that would explain everything. but I never found any answer. And even if I did find an answer that explained it, well, I've still got the addiction, and it's not going to help me rewire the addictive neural pathways. And even things like going to therapy is like another one, which I've never done, but a lot of people will just go to like a psychologist or a therapist who doesn't actually specialize in like addiction therapy. So the therapist is just going to also kind of do the same thing, where they're going to kind of dig into your childhood, or they'll maybe teach you to be more compassionate, or they might say, I don't know if it was you that told me, or someone said that the therapist just said, oh, like, get a girlfriend, that'll solve it.
Yeah, I've had clients who have said that before, yeah.
And it's like, that just shows that they've clearly never been in the addiction, because if it was that easy, you wouldn't have people who are stuck in an addiction who are hiding it from their wives and their kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Right, final question for you, and thanks again for sharing all of this. Really appreciate it. So, a lot of people listening, they probably are in that mental state where the addicted part of the mind is somewhat in control, and the addicted part of the mind is telling people, you're never going to get out of this, there's something wrong with you, all of this bullshit. And there can be that hopelessness and helplessness. So for anyone listening who's maybe in that position right now, what would you share with them to kind of help them become clear that actually what's going on is those sort of thoughts are coming from the addicted part of the mind, and they're not like rational thoughts at all.
Yeah, that's not you talking, that's the addictive part of the mind talking. And that's why just after a relapse, those thoughts are like so heavily like embedded in your brain, and then when you go like 2 weeks, they kind of disappear. So that alone is evidence that really your rational mind is the one that talks when you create distance between it. It's only in the moment, like after a relapse, that the addictive part of the mind like becomes really loud, and it's like, you can't do this, see, I told you, this is why you're a failure and all that stuff. So like, obviously I get it, I've been there, I know how convincing it can be. Like, I truly believed I would never overcome this, because I was just so in the addiction that was the only voice I heard. I hadn't heard any other voice, so I just like, obviously I thought that was me. Until I actually like grew apart from it, I realised, and I've not heard that voice in a long time, and it's just like, that wasn't me at all. It's like a different person. It's the addicted part of the mind talking, isn't it? It's so interesting you say that, how those thoughts come up right after relapse, and like that makes sense now with your understanding, because you know that you choose to engage even one time, that's actually the thing that creates the desire. That's why people stay in this addiction for literally decades, because they're told by other people out there saying, it's normal, relapse isn't that bad, it's part of recovery, and they're trying to focus in the wrong direction. But actually it's relapsing which creates all those thoughts of hopelessness and keeps you back in the addiction, because you do it once and it's like you give all your power to the addicted part of the mind. But fortunately the alternative is you deal with the addicted part of the mind correctly, and you get to have complete control and power and put the rational mind in control. Yeah, absolutely. And literally anyone can do this if they've got the right knowledge and the tools, like the script and the remember letter. Because in the first video that I posted yesterday on my YouTube, I did make that like clear. I said, like, anyone can overcome this, and I don't care how addicted you are, I don't care how long you've been in the addiction or how many times you've tried and failed, because like you and me both, we've tried and failed. Maybe thousands of times. 100%, yeah. I mean, just on my own, I've probably failed 1,000 times at trying to overcome it. So it doesn't matter how many times you've tried and failed. The only reason you've tried and failed is because you've probably done the same, like you've probably used the same strategy and approach every single time. So obviously you're just hoping for like a different outcome. Exactly. And it's just driving you mad. So yeah, it will change when you actually realise how the addictive part of the mind works. And things just become so much clearer, and you realise, oh, actually there is a way out, and you'll begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's just like so freeing when you eventually get out. Absolutely. So where can people find you if they want to follow more of your journey on YouTube? So it's Beyond Compulsion with Gavin Casey. Yeah, so currently got 8 subscribers, so we're growing pretty fast. Yeah, so join the team.
All right, let's go. 8 subscribers. We're gonna get that to.
I know, you better watch out.
I better watch out. I know. I'm on a few more, but I've got to look behind me now.
Exactly.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Cheers to anyone watching or listening. If you would like to learn more about the Beyond Compulsion Academy and our program, then I'll leave a link in the description so you can do that. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.